Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a bi-monthly series brought to you by the Revere Art Community at Las Parentas and Chocolate Cafe, where we sit and talk with artists from the Revere community about how they do what they do and sometimes why they do it, with a little bit of focus on making sure that they're able to market and make a little bit of income from this. So welcome to On the RAC. We welcome artists of all backgrounds, ages, abilities, and experience levels. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. We create a safe, respectful space for authentic, artistic expression. We honor the rich tapestry of culture that we call Revere, our home, and we recognize that art is a powerful bridge between communities. Again, welcome to On the RAC. Well, hello. Hi, on this very, very cold January day. I was looking at some of the images people had put in our intro about the beach and the summertime, and I'm missing that today. I'm Brian Harkins. I'm from the Revere Art Community, and this is On the RAC. It's a bi-weekly podcast that introduces, follows along, gets into the world of arts and culture in the city of Revere. Today we have a special guest with us.
Hi, my name is Adina. I go by Traces of No Places.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a painter, a gardener, and also a botanical designer, apprenticing as a landscape designer as well.
Well, that's very interesting. There's a lot of inspiration to be had in the Boston and greater Boston area, specifically for landscape designs, going back quite a bit of time in our neck of the woods, that's for sure. You also do other types of things in the world too, don't you? You've got little projects you got coming up. You've got things that you've done in the past. You've been a teacher. What got you into the arts?
I think I've always had a desire to be creative, and I think on some level everybody has that desire. But when I want to say in my early 20s, I had just finished undergrad, and I had kind of realized that I'd given up almost all of my creative hobbies, like even dabbling in them.
Okay.
And I realized that I needed that as an outlet in order to show up in relationships as the best version of myself.
That's a nice way of putting that. Seriously, think about that for a second, what you just said. That if the artistic, creative, the gentle, the forceful, the foresight, the reflection part of you didn't come into what you were, you weren't you.
Yeah. And I think, for a variety of reasons, when I was in my early 20s, I had very little sense of identity. I think growing up was kind of tumultuous for reasons I'm not going to get into, but art was kind of something that made itself, I didn't have to find a specific community of people to practice it. And I could practice it at my own pace, and I could set kind of my own, so to speak, curriculum or structure. And I think that fit me really well. And so I think around that time period, I was processing some things, and I was also trying to figure out what my voice was. And so that's kind of how I started my painting journey. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. With that time, that maturity, and the ability to look in hindsight, how was your painting process, or what you paint, or your style, or whatever it is that you like to do? And you're going to be seeing these. We're going to cut them in, and there'll be a little piece on the end where we'll re-show them of Adina's stuff. How did it change?
I think my more recent work has more of a sense of movement in it.
Could you describe what you mean by that for the people that aren't? There are some people that watch us that are not artists, and we appreciate patrons as much as artists, because if it's just artists looking at this, then yeah, we're seeing each other's stuff and we're as bad as the Academy Awards saying how great we are. But we do welcome everybody and anybody. So how would you describe that to someone that doesn't truly understand what that means?
So I'm going to answer this in a roundabout kind of way,
That's it's all good.
When I started, I think my work was very tight. I wanted to make like mythical, surrealistic type stuff, but I didn't quite have the figurative skills to just do it from my head. And I wanted to work towards that. And I am still working towards that. But when I started, I basically created this small project that lives on my laptop. And it was just a questions about authenticity that I had asked some of my peers. And then I created a series of paintings based on these stories that they shared. And in between each painting, I would practice, kind of do my like push-ups and sit-ups. And I would like practice live drawing or drawing a figure from an image. I would also practice smaller scale, just drawing without any reference at all and just like seeing how that improved or evolved.
Mhm.
And I think I reached a point which was probably a combination of me putting a lot of pressure on the craft, which has a way of suffocating joy out of it.
Okay.
I reached a point where I think I wanted my paintings to just kind of breathe more and have more movement. They tend to be very tightly bound. They tend to be very like detailed. So I would say my more recent work is definitely a little bit more intuitive and more immediate. And also, I think it just has wider brush strokes. Yeah.
All right. You've incorporated more of your feelings into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What brought you to Revere?
Well, housing.
That's a very, very important thing that we will be addressing is housing in Revere as far as artists. There's a HR 6553 bill out there, for a percentage for the arts for Revere, and some of that's going to go towards housing, hopefully. So that's an important thing. So what did you discover when you came here that artistically pushed you, or I get an idea from that, or inspired you? Has that occurred? And even if it hasn't, that's quite all right.
I don't know that I can answer it for Revere specifically.
Then where was the place that did that for you?
And I think, so when I moved to Boston, I moved here from upstate New York in August 2020.
How far up in New York were you?
Like Kerhonkson, New Paltz area.
You're up
Hudson
there.
Valley. I was up there, yeah.
Yeah, the Hudson Valley.
And when I moved here, I definitely felt very isolated in pursuing art. I think Boston is definitely a very professional oriented city, and it can be hard to find a community as you're like still kind of removing your training wheels and finding your creative voice, and you're still kind of, new to this thing.
Yep.
I will say, I think that has been growing a lot lately. Like, I think Boston over the past couple of years has had a huge, like growth spurt in just DIY creative movements in general. But yeah, I felt very isolated, and I remember crying to my best friend about that because, the isolation came from other factors as well.
Of course.
But I remember it was something that I talked to a close friend about, and it was, I think, part of the reason that I wanted to, even if not consciously at the time, I think I had this pull to create arts programming whenever I have the energy for it, because I think for me, like, I grew up epileptic and I lost my memory when I was 9, and I was
right.
ostracized
Okay.
very on a high level, and art and creativity served as like a very profound source of tenacity for me and of the ability to develop self-trust. And I think that, you know, art is often viewed as something luxurious
Okay,
in
I
certain
understand what you're
circles.
saying. Sure.
But I also think that it is, you know, everybody is an artist. And I think that the creative impulse is so important to cultivate in order to cultivate tenacity and self-trust. So I took a detour there, but
That's quite all right. It's a fascinating topic you just brought up. Make sure I understand what you're telling me so I ask questions properly on this. You had a challenge. We all have our challenges in our lives, every one of us. Some at different degrees than others when compared along the spectrum of everyone having it. But it seems like you took that and turned it into a reason to be positive. And you did that through your arts.
Yeah.
Am I correct in understanding that?
I would say so.
And when you were talking about trust, it was the trust you developed in yourself to be able to expose your inner self on a medium that people can look at, interact with, and participate in your story. Even if they don't know the whole story, by looking at something, they're going to get some emotional feeling out of that.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
How did what make me feel?
That experience of going through that and then finally getting to the point where you had enough trust to show people this and share it and actually get feedback, because you know feedback on this little screen thing is usually very nasty. There's a lot of people that they feel empowered that they're going to scream and yell and talk about stuff and belittle people. And why? By typing something or pressing a yes or a no button. That's not the real experience there. You took and created stuff and then shared it with individuals.
You know, it's funny that you asked that, because I would say that I'm actually squarely in the middle of like a transitional period in my life where I have been challenging myself to show myself more fully and more immediately and less in a curated way. So I would actually say that I have struggled to, you know, show my work, or I have struggled to at least talk about my work, or at least contextualize my work a lot. And, you know, I think I've realized, and when you struggle to kind of show yourself, whether it's through art
Exactly. Anything,
or
any endeavor you
anything,
take on. Right.
it, you know, it impacts you in every area of life. And so, you know, it's funny that you say that, because I would say that I'm actually in sort of the growing period of that right now.
Oh, I can see that when I interact with you with different times we've spoken. Yes, it's there. Growth is inevitable. We either accept it or we don't. And the only way we learn to grow is through experiences and how we've reacted to them. And a lot of times people forget that failure is not the end result. It's just part of the experience of growth. So, with that, in your art, how are you going to take and share that with people? What do you do currently? Your website, anything like that that you have?
I have a website and an Instagram, Traces of No Places.
On Instagram, you can find it by just typing that in.
Mhm.
tracesofnoplaces.com.
Yep.
All right. You got to explain it. Not everyone. We got to go to our medium, which is people that are there and people like yourself that are making me really think. I'm loving this interview. I really am. This is a very unique one. It's more about the intellectual, emotional, and I would almost say spiritual side of what art really is to artists. Because you're saying things that I'm thinking, yep, I've been down that path. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Would not show my stuff the whole bit, and the reasons why are internally mixed in me. But that's good. So, how are you going to share yourself with other people? What would you like it to be if it isn't happening now, besides your websites and things like that?
I don't know that I can answer that question.
Why not?
I think that, you know, I think that evolves as you gain clarity in your work and in who you are. And so I think that I like to maintain a little bit of surprise and excitement for myself. And I think if I do care about continuing a practice or a habit, I need to put in an active effort to constantly pull pressure off of myself, because I tend to put a lot of pressure on. And so I don't know how it's going to evolve. I don't know what it's going to look like 5 or 10 years from now. But I know that I want to produce work that makes people feel something and makes people feel moved and immersed and makes people feel a little bit less alone and a little bit more free. And yeah.
I can relate to that. Now, let me ask you this. Since I've got the information you filled out before you came on, I know a little bit more than you folks do. You do some teaching.
I do.
Now, wouldn't you consider that a part of you that you're sharing with other people? That you're actually building those steps right now? Doesn't always have to be the artistic endeavor that leads it. That's in our mind and in our hearts. True?
Yes.
Yes. And we all know that changes as the wind blows and as we change. But to dedicate yourself to be able to create a curriculum where you could teach people for how many hours is the class? 3 hours?
The upcoming one?
Yeah.
That one is 1 3-hour session that
Right.
I'm doing with a
Talk
friend.
a little bit about that and what you're doing on that side of your artistic work.
Sure. So we have a workshop coming up.
Where's it going to be?
It's going to be at the Foundry Consortium. It's February 14th. It's part of their annual Foundry Festival. They have a week of free programming for
And this is where?
all ages. It's in Cambridge.
And the Foundry is an organization that?
They provide like art programming and also spaces for artists to teach. And yeah.
And they work with the city of Somerville?
Cambridge.
I'm sorry, forgive me, Cambridge, right? Which is something we desperately need in our community, is a working relationship with the artist community and the city on bigger levels than what they are currently doing. So what occurs during this time when the Foundry has its week-long festival?
So my friend Colleen D'Amata and I, we're going to be teaching a 3-hour workshop February 14th from 1 to 4 p.m. It's going to be called Doing It Wrong, Tufting and Topographies. We're going to be making a Cringe is Community tapestry. And since that's a 1 person at a time activity, as people switch off, we're also going to be building mini landscapes, which can be as technical or as imaginary as people will want.
All right, that's a lot to unpack. Tufting. That's basically yarn, materials, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Landscapes. Are they building little pieces to put together?
Yes.
All right. So that's art in that way. And then it's all going to go on to a large tapestry piece, correct?
No, it's 2 separate pieces. So because the tapestry piece is 1 collaborative piece, we also wanted everybody to make something that they can take home with them. So they're also going to be making these landscapes, and the thought was that they could like puzzle piece together into like 1 big one.
Yeah.
But everybody can take home
their own individual.
Their own, yeah.
And it could be anything from, is it fantasy to something that's important to them socially or artistically, correct?
Yeah, it can be as, technical or realistic to imaginary as they would like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you get to be in a position where you could do that?
I feel like I have really DIY'd my career. I think last year we ran a program that like I had a vision for a while, which I briefly talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I also taught at the Garfield School through the city of Revere, drawing and painting for kids. I don't know that I ever like planned to teach.
Yeah.
But
funny how that happens, huh?
Yeah, I think that where I am now is just kind of the result of, I try really hard to create opportunities for myself. And I think I'm good at that. And I also, this is something that I would like to share with more people. And I would like more people at any age and any point of life to feel like they can allow themselves and give themselves the permission to try their hand at creating anything. And, I think teaching is a mode of that.
I agree.
And I think, I guess that's all I have to say on that.
Would you be amenable to teaching classes?
Oh, yeah.
So if we took and pushed towards doing something in a location, maybe a couple different artists, so you get different flavors, but you'd be open for something like that.
Yes, I would love to teach.
Do you hear that? There are people here that are going through what you've gone through or are going to go through as you develop as an emerging artist, and they're also willing to help and work with you. So let me ask you, you got to whisper just a little bit of the thing that you said here. I got something great, fantastic, super cool that's going to happen. I can't talk about it.
Yes, I like to maintain the element of suspense.
Mystery.
I just finished concepting my next body of work. I tend to create in, it ebbs and flows. I tend to have bursts where I make a lot of work and then long stretches of time where I make nothing.
Oh, I agree with that.
I think everybody has their own process when it comes to creating. And you kind of just have to figure out for yourself what works for you. But I'm not going to say too much, but I am going to say that I think it's going to be my most personal body of work up to date that I've created. And it's going to be the most earnest body of work, or at least I am trying to make it that. And it is really, I am creating it to kind of both honor and release a certain weight in my life that I can no longer carry.
Sometimes it's good to put the weight down.
Yeah.
The hardest part is not realizing that you should have done it a while ago, and you carry it with you longer and longer.
Yeah, well,
I can relate.
Yeah, younger versions don't always have the tools to put it down.
Yeah, you do gain, even if it's just in your own mind, some clarity with what really were challenges in your life as you look back at them. That's for sure. So, on an upbeat, and there was nothing downbeat about what we talked about, I really have enjoyed getting into this side of the arts. Come the spring, would you like to participate in some shows we're going to do?
Yeah, I'd be interested.
All right. Do you have any new paintings?
I have a couple.
All right. What about all the other stuff you got that you haven't shown that you might now feel that you could show?
Yeah.
Great. So look forward to this coming spring, summer, and fall at the Revere Historic Society. Hi to all you kids to our bi-monthly art shows that we do there. They've all gone very, very well. And anything you'd like to say?
No, nothing we haven't. I don't know. I just, I hope everybody, develops the courage or grants themselves the permission to give their hand, or whatever, give themselves the chance to try whatever creative craft calls to them at any age. I think that, while certain limitations might be real, like I think everybody always surprises themselves with the capacities that they have and the capacities that they can develop. And I think that that's really, really important. And I think it develops flexibility of mind and a certain spaciousness to a person. So, yeah.
I'll agree with that. Nothing I'm going to beat on that. And to all of you out there, once again, thank you for joining us. As always, you're welcome. Revere Art Community on Facebook is the easiest way to get a hold of us for those of you that are new to doing any posting of your images. You can post them right there. If you can put a picture up on Facebook, you can do it in a lot of other places also. So once again, we want to thank you for being on the rack with the Revere Art Community and our special guest,
Adina.
Finish the punchline. Adina?
Yeah, follow me at Traces of No Places.
Traces of No Places with Adina. Thanks, and we hope to see you next time from On the Rack. Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a bi-monthly series brought to you by the Revere Art Community at Las Parentas and Chocolate Cafe, where we sit and talk with artists from the Revere community about how they do what they do and sometimes why they do it, with a little bit of focus on making sure that they're able to market and make a little bit of income. So welcome to On the RAC. We welcome artists of all backgrounds, ages, abilities, and experience levels. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. We create a safe, respectful space for authentic, artistic expression. We honor the rich tapestry of culture that we call Revere, our home, and we recognize that art is a powerful bridge between communities. Again, welcome to On the Rack.